The whole town believed she could never become a mother. But when the giant cowboy placed his rough hand against her trembling stomach and whispered, "What if they were all wrong?" her entire world stopped. Neither of them knew that a secret buried for 7 years was about to rewrite their future forever. Emily Carter had spent most of her 28 years carrying wounds no one could see. After 5 years of marriage, her husband had abandoned her with cruel words she would never forget. "You're barren, Emily. I deserve a real family." The divorce became the town's favorite gossip. Neighbors pitied her. Others blamed her. Every church gathering, every market visit, every whispered conversation reminded her she wasn't enough. Unable to bear the shame, Emily packed everything she owned into a small wagon and traveled west until she reached the quiet valley of Red Creek. There she found work tending vegetables on an old ranch owned by the most feared man in the county, Caleb Hunter. People called him the giant cowboy. Standing over 6'6", with broad shoulders, dark eyes, and a permanent serious expression, Caleb rarely smiled. Children ran when they saw him. Men respected him. Women admired him from a distance but never dared approach. Rumors surrounded him. Some claimed he'd once fought 3 cattle thieves alone. Others insisted he hated company because his heart had died years ago. Emily only knew one thing. He offered honest work. Nothing more. The first weeks passed in silence. Emily planted vegetables while Caleb repaired fences. She cooked. He worked. She cleaned. He stayed outside until sunset. Neither spoke unless necessary. But slowly, small moments changed everything. One afternoon Emily accidentally cut her hand while chopping wood. Before she could hide it, Caleb silently wrapped the wound with his own clean handkerchief. "You work too hard," he muttered. It was the longest sentence she'd ever heard him speak. She smiled. "So do you." For the first time, the giant cowboy smiled back. Summer brought life back to the ranch. Flowers bloomed around the farmhouse. The vegetable garden flourished. Emily laughed again. Caleb found himself waiting for her voice every morning. One evening they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Without looking at her, Caleb asked quietly, "Why did your husband leave?" Emily froze. She hadn't told anyone. "He said I couldn't have children." Caleb remained silent, then finally answered, "Men can be wrong." She looked at him. His eyes never left the horizon. Those 4 words somehow healed wounds years of apologies never could. Months passed. One rainy evening Emily fainted while carrying buckets of water. Caleb caught her before she hit the ground. Panicked, he raced 30 miles through the storm to bring the town doctor. After the examination, the doctor smiled. "I have surprising news." Emily and Caleb stared nervously. "Miss Carter isn't barren." Silence filled the room. "In fact," the doctor chuckled, "she's nearly 3 months pregnant." Emily's face turned pale. "That's impossible." The doctor frowned. "Not impossible." Then he explained. Years earlier another doctor had misread an illness and wrongly declared she could never conceive. She had believed that lie ever since. Tears rolled down Emily's cheeks. She wasn't broken. She never had been. But another truth still remained. Caleb quietly stepped outside. Emily followed. "I need to tell you something." Caleb nodded. "The baby," she lowered her head, "isn't yours." Months before arriving at Red Creek, Emily's ex-husband had briefly returned asking for another chance. She'd believed him. Only for one night. The next morning he disappeared forever. Emily never knew she was already carrying his child. "I'll leave tomorrow," She whispered. You deserve better. Caleb stood silently for what felt like forever. Finally, he asked, do you love him? Emily immediately shook her head. No. Does he deserve this child? Again. No. Caleb stepped closer. His large weathered hand gently rested against her stomach. The baby kicked. His eyes filled with tears. Then he whispered, what if I become the father instead? Emily stared at him in disbelief. You'd raise another man's child. Caleb smiled softly. I've spent 10 years believing I wasn't meant to have a family. If God is giving me the chance now, I won't waste it. Emily broke down crying. No one had ever chosen her after knowing the truth. Except him. The following spring, Caleb and Emily married beneath the oldest oak tree on the ranch. No expensive decorations. No grand celebration. Only a small church pastor. A handful of neighbors. And endless hope. Months later, a beautiful baby girl entered the world. Caleb held her with shaking hands. The giant cowboy who once terrified an entire county cried harder than anyone in the room. They named her Grace, because that's exactly what she had brought into their lives. Years passed peacefully. Grace grew into a cheerful little girl who adored horses and followed Caleb everywhere. To her, he was simply Dad. One autumn afternoon, a stranger rode onto the ranch. Emily recognized him instantly. Her ex-husband. Older. Bitter. Alone. I came for my daughter, he demanded. Caleb calmly stepped forward. Where were you for 4 years? The man stayed silent. Who held her when she was sick? Silence. Who taught her to walk? Nothing. Who kissed her goodnight every evening? The stranger couldn't answer. Little Grace hid behind Caleb's legs. Daddy, she whispered. I'm scared. That single word settled everything. The stranger lowered his eyes. He finally understood. Being a father had nothing to do with blood. Everything to do with love. Without another word, he climbed back onto his horse and disappeared forever. That evening, Grace sat beside Caleb watching the sunset. Daddy. Yes, sweetheart. Will you always stay with us? Caleb smiled. Always. Emily slipped her hand into his. Years ago, she'd believed she was unwanted. Broken. Unlovable. Instead, life had led her to the one man who never asked whether the child was his. He only asked whether they needed him. Sometimes the family we dream about isn't the one we're born into. It's the one built by loyalty, forgiveness, and a love strong enough to choose each other every single day. Please, friends, spot my channel. Like, share, comment, subscribe for more stories.